So, are we ready? We need to talk about change. So, how much change goes on here? Look at the faces. Too much? Yeah? Yeah, a bit. Too much too fast? Especially recently. You know, the same can be said for just about any organization I work with. It's been a really long time since I had anybody say, oh yeah, I have enough time in the day to do my job. You know, things pretty much stay the same. Everything is always constantly changing. And I said this to you before. Actually, the only thing that won't change is change. And so whether we like it or don't like it, we need to become comfortable with it. So let's do a warm-up activity, shall we? And explore change a little bit. Are we excited? Look at Paul's face. Paul's not so excited. Yeah, that's it, Malcolm. Everybody gets one of these because we're going to build origami stars.
Sorry?
Origami stars. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take one end and loop it over the other. All right? So to make sure the small end is in the front. Can everybody see this? I'll walk towards the back. Yes. So Chris, you're in charge at your table. Got it? Make a loop that looks like this.
That's bad.
Let's see. Not exactly. There you go. Good job. Do that again. You want to take the long end and feed it through that loop. Okay? So you're going to kind of have a little knot at the end. How many of you finished your origami star? Finished? You finished something? All right, okay. So that was a silly activity, wasn't it? Yeah? So just, you know by now, I don't do anything unless there's a purpose. It's a really goofy activity, I understand. However, I want to ask you some questions about that activity. Please tell me the truth, because don't forget, I was in the room, I was watching, and I could pretty much read your mind. So I know what the answers are, so I'm just going to ask you to be honest, okay? Okay? When I told you we were going to make origami stars, what went through your mind?
I can do this.
Okay, so one at a time? Okay, so we're going to say WTF? Yeah? Okay. What else?
We're paying for this?
We're paying for, okay. We're paying for this? All right, say what? Tasia?
I can do this. Bring it on.
Okay, I can do this. So, as I said, there was a point to this. There is a point to this. And I'm pretty sure you know where I'm going. That activity took all of 10 minutes, right? Took 10 minutes to do. We're in an environment that's safe. You know you can't do it wrong. You know there are no consequences. You could have completely said, I'm not playing. Okay, and I've had people say, I'm not playing, and not do it. And there would have been no consequences. So this is a pretty safe environment. I've got a group of really smart, really talented, really good leaders here in the room, and yet look at the negative emotions I was able to prompt in 10 minutes over something that doesn't matter. Do I need to say anything else, or can you finish the sentence for me?
You just wasted our time.
No, I didn't. Because what I wanted you to experience, I wanted you to experience how employees feel when change comes to the organization, or change comes to the team, or change comes to the department. Okay? Because when change comes to your employees, it's not safe like it was in here. They start to worry. The unfortunate part about change is it brings with it some very negative nonverbal messages. And we talked about the power of nonverbals. So if we've been doing something for 15 years, and all of a sudden it's, no, we're going to change the way we do this. We're changing the way we do this. What's the nonverbal message that change sends?
That when what they're doing is not good.
Okay, that what they've been doing for 15 years all of a sudden isn't good enough anymore. Okay? But if they've been doing it for 15 years, can you make the leap? If I've been doing it for 15 years and the way I've been doing it isn't good enough anymore, maybe,
I'm not good at it.
what if I'm not good enough anymore? What if I can't learn the new way? Okay? These emotions, all these negative emotions, right? Change. Why do I have to do this? This is stupid. What's the point? Right? Why are we paying for this? Right? I don't get what this has to do with anything. All of these negative emotions come from the fear of the unknown. What's an origami star? I don't know how to make an origami star. What if I get it wrong? What if I can't do it? What if I fail? And this is in a safe environment. But imagine what happens to people when there's a change in process or a change in procedure or a new piece of equipment, okay? And all of a sudden, the old one isn't good enough anymore, and they start to wonder, what if I'm not good enough anymore? And all of these emotions. What if I can't learn the new way? What if I can't do it the new way as well as I can do the old way? What if there are not enough training or instructions? What if they don't need the old way anymore, so they don't need me anymore? Some changes are small and don't make a big ripple, and others are, in the eyes of an employee, are catastrophic, yeah? And we have to be able to manage, it's these emotions that people experience that we need to manage through the change. It's not the change itself, it's the people and the emotion, because the goal is, again, that if people are engaged in these kind of emotions, if they're busy gossiping about what's the point and why are we doing this, and I'm so frustrated, if they're busy engaging in those kind of discussions, what are they not doing? They're not doing the work. So the goal in change management, when it comes to the people, it's to manage the emotion through the change so we minimize the lack of productivity. Does that make sense? Because you're not going to get rid of this, okay? But it's how do we work with it so that people are still productive through the change. And it's exactly why we have to talk about it. Not all change is the same, okay? Not all change is created equal. So there are different types of changes. For example, there are 5 different types of changes: evolutionary adaptation, developmental change, transitional change, drastic action, and what's called transformational change. So I always think about the day they put the computer on my desk, okay, was definitely transformational change, because it changed the way we all did things. It changed the way we kept our documents and submitted reports. So a transformational change is when an organization realizes that what it's doing is not enough, okay? And it needs to undergo a whole transformation. It's happening a lot in the world today. I can't even tell you how many of my clients tell me they're in the middle of transformation. Now, most of them don't understand what it actually means, and they've simply done a reorg, which is not a transformational change. There are clients, one of them, who is a tobacco company, and they truly are in the middle of transformation, because as a tobacco company, they were smart enough to realize 8 years ago, what did they realize 8 years ago? That pretty soon, that pretty soon there will no longer be a need for the product that they sell due to regulations. Okay, Japan is going to smoke-free by 2020. The UK is talking about smoke-free by 2030. So they smartly realized Sorry, I just surprised the heck out of everybody in the room. Whoops. Oops.
Let's go for a cigarette and
I'm getting stressed.
Go for a cigarette and talk about this. Oh, I've caused stress in the entire group now, Nikki. Look what I've done. Okay.
They'll be coming back here.
All right.
We'll all be locked in your fear is coming up.
Yeah, fear is coming up. Oh, yeah, we should do that exercise now. I should have done that instead of the origami star watch ball react, yeah? So point was, though, that this company, in recognizing the way the world is going, also had to recognize that this massive global organization who was used to making money hand over fist was very clear that in a very short period of time, and less they did something completely transformational, they were looking at being out of business. Does that make sense? Okay, and so that's actually what they did, and they poured billions into researching a new way of doing things. And their vision now, this is a tobacco company who has a mission and vision of a smoke-free future. That's transformation. That's transformation. They created a completely different product that is smoke-free, but still gives smokers what they want, but yet gives the health care companies and the environment what it wants. That's transformation. The farther down this list you go, the more upheaval. The longer this takes and the more upheaval you're going to have. So the less the change. Changing a procedure, people are going to complain and swear, and then, you know, in a few weeks they've settled in, they've gotten used to it. You start to get lower down in these types of changes. You start to look at drastic action and transformational changes. You start to get increased emotions with this, which means a lot lower performance, more problems for you to deal with. And again, it's never the change that's the problem. When change fails, it's not because the change was wrong or the process was wrong. It's because we couldn't get it through the people. Right? We couldn't get the people on board. So the minute you hear the word change, what's the first thing that comes up in your mind?
How does it affect me?
What's going to happen to me? And that's why when we communicate, the very first question we have to answer for people is, what does it mean for you? Right? Not, this is the change and it's going to be so great and look at all the positives down there. They don't care. The only thing they're thinking is, what does it mean for me today? So there are 4 different phases when we look at change. People are going to go through this at different rates, okay? So we don't generally skip any of those, but sometimes somebody can move from here to here in 5 minutes. You know, in 5 minutes. I mean, I can think about myself. Big changes that have happened myself. Okay, so I'll tell you about a big change. Do you remember BlackBerry?
Yeah.
Okay, BlackBerry was a client of mine. Yeah, I used to get about over $100,000 of revenue from BlackBerry every year, and then one day I got a phone call: BlackBerry's out of business. So overnight. Okay, so you can imagine. Yeah, I'm like, this can't be happening. It's got to be a mistake. It can't be happening. Okay? And then I start complaining. Oh my God, what are we going to do? How are we going to recoup this revenue? Okay? And I start panicking about this. And then I went to sleep that night, and all of a sudden I started to realize that, wait a minute, this isn't a bad thing. They took up a lot of my time. They were pretty high maintenance. I just got a whole bunch of time freed up for me to go and get some new clients who I do like. I went from panic, denial, okay, this can't be happening, blah, blah, to commitment, to excitement almost, excitement in less than 24 hours. Does that make sense? Okay, so it's not impossible for someone to go through the entire course of this during the duration of your meeting. They might come in here and might argue in their head as you're talking about the change, but then start to see that there's benefit to this change, and by the time they leave the meeting, they're on board. Okay, this is the goal with communicate, communicate, communicate. Some people are going to take a lot longer to go through this. And so there's no right or wrong here. The point is, we don't tend to skip these, but the goal is what we don't want is this. Okay. Because the deeper they are into the resistance, the longer and deeper they are in denial and resistance, okay, the longer it takes them to get through to exploration, what's happening to productivity and performance? That's the problem. That's the problem. So what we want, and we talk about managing people through change, we want to manage them, not to skip this, but we want to manage them through so it looks a bit more like that. Does that make sense? So we're not saying you shouldn't be resistant. We're saying, okay, there's some resistance. Let's talk about it. Let's explore. You know, what's the worst thing that can happen? We want to try and minimize the time and the depth of this so that we're minimizing the lack of performance. But like I said, I'm actually pretty good with change. The thing that makes me crazy, though, are these things. It's the one thing that will get me, okay, stuck here. And actually, you can see it, so it's happening right now. Currently, with my iPhone, I am in denial. Yes? Because there's this little red thing on settings that says, update your operating system now. Nope. I'm in denial, right? Nah. Mm-mm. And then it tends to get worse, doesn't it?
Yeah, because Apple's actually laying bugs at the autumns when they're getting new phones, putting in bugs for the older phones, so people.
Is that really true?
Yeah, that's true.
I discovered the hard way, so I have discovered the hard way. I'm like, no, I'm completely in denial. I'm ignoring this. And then anytime soon, Apple will start to actively remind me, right? And there'll be, every time I open my phone, there'll be a million messages about updating it. Then I go into active resistance because I start yelling at the phone, yeah? And yelling at Apple and why I'm not doing this, and this is ridiculous, and I like my phone the way it is, and I don't care if there's a new layout and calendar, I like this one. And I start yelling at my phone. Except what happens, okay, what happens is, and it happens every single time, what happens is that my husband also has an iPhone, okay? So what'll happen is my husband's retired. So when my husband sees the little dot on the settings, guess what he does?
Take away.
He says, ooh, okay, click, right? And then he calls me. He says, oh, I don't know how to do this. How do I do this? And then I have to figure it out, and then I have to tell him on his phone. I figure it out and show him how to do it. But while I'm figuring it out on his phone for him, guess what's happening for me?
You're exploding.
I'm going, oh, well, that's kind of cool. I actually don't mind that. That's not too bad. And while I'm still in active resistance, there's that little bit of exploration going on, right? Sometimes it's enough to cause me to push the button. On occasion, I have to admit that I have jumped iterations of iPhone. I may have gone from iPhone 4 to iPhone 7 because I ignored the update your operating systems for so long that it just quit working. May have happened. So my point being that, you know, no matter how good people are with change on a regular basis, good people have bad feelings around change. And only knowing your team are you able to assess and predict how they're going to respond. And if you know that, you can be proactive in helping people through it.